having all the meetings with our advisors. Let's see, I have a very big agenda. I'm going to talk shortly about who we are, the background for BIM and ICT, something about the law in Denmark and the ICT secondary regulation. For you guys who are Danish, you know it as Betypikangon. I'm going to show you our ICT agreement. I'm going to show you what we use in our organization and the future for both BIM and ICT, both in generally but also in our organization. So who are we? Well, we administrate, build and operate all the public buildings in Copenhagen. And we have 780 properties, around 2,800 buildings. And we own 2.2 million square meters, we rent 0.6. Then we have some small additional real estate elements and antennas, totally around 2.9 million square meters. That makes us the third largest public constructor in Denmark. We have a budget this year on 1.8 billion and we are assuming 20 to 25 cases over 20 million. And I will get to that later, well that is important, but some of you probably already know. This is our flow chart of the organization. We have the municipality is the big one, the top one. This is our clients. We have different organizations in Copenhagen. For example, child organization, they administrate and takes care of all the schools and stuff like that. And Kultur- og Fritidsforvaltning, that's for example those who have the libraries, and under that we are our own organization, Copenhagen Ejendom, and in our organization we have 5 departments. We have a building department, facility management department, development department, and then some administration and client support departments. These are our clients. They pay us 100 million, we build a school and they have to rent it. It's a rule in Copenhagen that we don't have that much area, so even though they're paying us to build it, so technically it's their school, we own it, and they rent it to us. It has something to do with if they want to build a school at Bryan. That's a very expensive square meters, and that's why they're going to rent to us afterwards. And that's why we want them to optimize the square meters, so they will have a little less rent. So maybe they will not build in Bryan, but maybe fill out in Valby or Vandløse where it's cheaper. Political stuff. I'm like Morillo. I'm sitting right here in Team ICT and Data, and I'm the only BIM coordinator at the moment. So, background. Why are we building BIM and ICT? Well, let's see. In the building construction sector in Denmark, we have approximately 140 persons. We is 5% of the total value of the economy in Denmark, and that's of course nice. But we also have some bad stuff. We have declining productivity, we have many failures and defects in construction. And why do we have that? In 2005 to 2006, we had a huge development in Copenhagen, in the whole Denmark, in the whole world. Everybody was building, couldn't go fast enough. And what happens when we have the 5-year review? In 2012, 2014, we have so many mistakes because everybody's building so fast that nobody actually cared about stuff. They were just like, oh, we have to get this building done in 1 month because we already have 5 other projects. Let's just fix it now and we'll look at it later. So now we are facing a lot of mistakes in projects. And in the end, the prices are always 10 to 30% higher than the Nordic countries. Why? Why can't we do it as good as the Swedish and Norway people? So, what do we want? We want high expectation for realization benefits. Karlqvis made a report in 2009 saying that if you do BIM and ICT worldwide, or actually nationwide, you will save 7 billion kroner. Nice. Then you had Erhvervs- og Byggestyrelsen, which is now called Byggestyrelsen, CBS and DTU make a new report in 2012 saying if you make BIM, you will save 10 to 15%. And again, you had another organization, Dansk Byggeri, saying that if you make digital tender, the contractors will save 42% of their time in offer giving, which is 2.5 billion nationwide. So there's a lot of money to save, and we want to save those money. Why? Because we have less resources and have to do more. That's the situation in Denmark at the moment. However, yeah.
Can you fix the sound? It's very hard to listen to you.
Yeah, sorry.
Can you only hear what it's
Can you hear? Is it very bad? Okay. You can always come in. You can come up here. Okay. The problem with all these is, of course, that this report says, okay, if you want those 7 billion, you have to do this and this and this. This report says if you want to save 10%, you have to do this and this and this. If you want digital tender, you have to structuralize it. You have to make sure that everything looks the same, so everybody is completely knows how the next digital tender is going to look. So of course, all these is like what we want to gain, and there are some issues like you have to do this and this and this. And that's what the last is about. All the fulfilling of all these benefits is not only determined by one actor. One actor can save probably a few bucks. If I'm saying, okay, we'll do digitalizing and BIM in our construction. If our advisors and our contract doesn't do it, we can save some money, but we are still depending on those. If the contractor doesn't do BIM and doesn't fulfill a BIM model with the information we need when we're going to operate it afterwards, we're not going to save that much money. You have the big bang boom. You're using 4% in the programming phase. Then you use 16% to build the product and the building itself. And then you have 80% on the operating phase. And since we're also operating it, if we want to spend 1% more on the program phase, because if we can save 10% in the operation phase, that's easy money. Okay, so why are we actually doing this? We have a law saying we have to do that. The law says in 2011, the government said that, okay, now the law, which only was for the government, should also include the municipalities and the regions. Okay, fine. And underneath that law, we have 7 secondary regulations, ICT, OPP, partnering, and lifecycle cost, also called total in Danish. So we have a law saying we have to do it here from the 1st of April. We have done it since this last summer, because we don't do it just because of the law. There's so many money involved, and we can do it much more better when we have to operate the buildings afterwards. So in that case, we're just doing it because it just makes sense. The ICT secondary regulations say something about we have to do it. At the moment, the government has a threshold value of 5 million, we have the 20 million. That's why I said that we have this year 20 to 25 projects over 20 million. However, this threshold is going to be put down in some couple of years. The government has been working on this since 2007, and now they've been put down to 5 million. So maybe in 2, 4, 6 years, we're also going to do it for 5 million, and that's going to mean a lot of the projects. And in the end, we don't want to build in 2 different ways. We don't want to say, okay, above 20 million we're going to do BIM, under 20 million we're not going to do BIM. That's not the way we're going to do it. We're going to do the same on all projects. Project web, tender web. That doesn't depend on how big the building is. It's just a window facade. You still have maybe 1 actor, maybe 2 actors. You need to exchange information and files. Use tender web. It's so cheap. It's not even to discuss. So many regions and municipalities at the moment are saying, oh, as long as it's under 20 million, we can be safe for BIM. And I'm saying, don't do that. This is just an implementing phase. This is a startup. Okay, so you only have a few above 20 million. Learn from it. Implement it in your business. Think ahead. What is the secondary regulation about? Oh, we have to do some... Well, we are not doing it. We're demanding it from advisors. So ICT coordination, they have to manage the building models. We have communication and project work. We have to use the models. We have the digital tender and offer phase. Digital delivery at the end, how it's going to be delivered. For example, when Lars was here, he talked about the FM system. What are your requirements? These requirements you're putting in the contract is early in the phase compared to when are you actually going to, maybe in 2 years you're going to have a building model. And that has to be transformed into an FM system. And digital structured list, minor list, that's what I was transforming into. And of course, it started 1st of April. This is our ICT agreement. I don't know how many of you know BIMs and Copenhagen. You know it? I assure you know it. BIMs has made many standards, and we are very much appreciated for that. Many architects come and say, oh, if we've got standards, we'll not have, we'll only have concrete walls and a bunker, we're not going to have those experimental, OPRAs and stuff like that. And that's not the case. Many of these standards depend on other stuff than just architectural design. They can design a new OPRA if they want. They just have to do some standards regarding, classification, how to draw quantities and stuff like that. They have also made an example of an ICT agreement. It's not the best, I'm going to say that at the moment. We're supporting the standard, that's why we're using it. And it consists of a service level agreement saying what's actually going to be built, and then all technical stuff, how is it going to be built. I'm giving the slides to Michelle, and then she can give it to you all of it. We have it public online, so you can use it. I know probably my students at Douglas and Christian, who was working at my department, is using it. So how does it even look? This is actually how it looks inside. We have many subjects which come directly from the standards. However, we want to show our advisors and our contractors what have we made to change it. And we do that with the big bad line on the left side. That way, our advisors and contractors can say, okay, we know these standards. We don't need to read it again. We can just, look it through. Where do they have changed it? And so we have changed here, and we also have some changes over here. And I always take this as an example, because over here we're demanding that the file we're getting, the building model file we're getting, should be IFC. That's in the law. But we also want a secondary format, which without any loss of alphanumeric and geometric information can be transformed into our model program. End of that sentence, new sentence. We use Revit. And then many advisors say, are we asking for Revit? Well, technically we're a public contractor. We cannot ask for a specific thing. We cannot ask for Revit. That's a project. We're not allowed to do that. We cannot ask for Bentley. We cannot ask for a specific project. So we ask for a format that can be transformed into that. And you have many add-ons. So you can actually take, if you're working in MicroStation, and transform that into Revit. And you can also take the MicroStation file, give it to a BIM, consultant firm, and they will make a Revit file of that. So we're not demanding Revit directly. And that's also one big thing. BIM and ICT is so wide. I know many of you probably have focused on the model, and as Lars was saying, information is much more important. ICT and BIM also takes, and you have to take a lot of concern into the legal stuff. How are you actually, you have a BIM model who the architecture makes. Do you own it when you get it? No. Why? Still the architecture. He owns the building. It's ophavsret in Denmark. So we don't own it. So what can we use it for? Nothing. So what do we have to do? We have to put in the contract that after we get the building, we don't want to own it, but we want the right to use it in any way we want to do it. It's stuff like that that you have to consider also when you make the ICT agreement. Let's say, okay, we got the ICT agreement, we got BIM, it's planted in the organization and it's growing fast. Business process internally, we have changed those. I'll come back to those, but there's a very important sentence here. 10% technique, 90% processes. I see a lot of that stuff from our students we have at my team. I know that 4 of the students we have at our team is from KF. They are so good in building the models. But what are you going to use the models for? How are you going to actually exchange it? So you have a model. It consists of an architecture model, construction model, HVAC model, maybe even more, site model. So let's say the architecture. He's going to change some stuff on the roof. And then he has to send the model out to the contractor so he gets the new revised model. At the same time, you have the HVAC man. he's at the point where he's changing some stuff, but he has to make it final. So how are you going to exchange that model? You have some part of the model which is done. This is the new stuff. But you also have some stuff that is not the new stuff. You cannot send that out. So how are you going to do that when the whole idea of BIM is to work in one model and exchange it? So the process is even more important. Everybody nowadays can make a BIM model. It's the process, how you're going to do it. That's where you save time. That's where you don't, get into trouble. Because if you exchange the BIM model and the HVAC factor person has not made it done, then you're in a big serious problem, because then the contractor is going to see, oh, he's changing the HVAC system. He hasn't told me about that yet. What am I going to do about that? Should I take that into consideration? That's going to be a whole big mess. I had a presentation for the whole organization about BIM and ICT. So, we have an organization. I know a lot about it. The rest doesn't. So, who should know more and who should know less? We have a building department. How much knowledge about BIM and ICT should they know? Many companies nowadays have a BIM supporting department. And I see myself as the BIM support department in our organization. And I know everything. I know even a lot about Revit and families. But our building department doesn't, and they're not going to. They should not know the details. We buy all these stuff at our advisors. They should know all the details. However, our project leaders should know that when the advisor comes and say, ooh, so you want the files in PDF or Revit? They should know that they want Revit, because that's what we want. We don't want PDF. It's a static document we can use for anything. We hate it. So stuff like that. And also they should make sure that the advisor is not going to trouble over them and say a lot of stuff about BIM, IFC, CAD, all that stuff, integrated delivery manuals. So the project leaders should know something, but not technical stuff. I'm always attending all the kickoff meetings with the advisors. This agreement is on our website. Every time we're putting out a tender for our advisors, it says you can find the ICT agreement on the net. If they have any questions, they can send it to the project leader. He will contact me. I will advise him to answer. After we have a meeting with the advisor who wins the project, we're going to say, okay, so you want the project. What do you think about our ICT agreement? You want to change stuff. We let them go into a conversation about what they think is very important and what they think is not important. Our ICT agreement is built on two things. Need to have and nice to have. Need to have, and those two demands is not actually that clear. I know it, but the advisor doesn't. So they're going to come to me and say, we don't want to use DBK as a qualification system. We want to use SFB. Can we? I'm going to say no. That's one of the need to have demands. We only operate DBK in the organization. So if we get SFB in 2 years, so old school, we're not going to use that. So sorry. Then he's going to say, okay, so what about this subject? Can we change that? And then I will be, you know what? Okay, if you want to change that, fine. That's only a nice to have demand. I know that, but I have to keep the cards already on the hand. If I come afterwards, after we have made the contract and says, you know what, we also want the site to be 3D. Oh, then the advisor is going to say, well, that costs extra. And that's going to cost a lot extra. Yes, I already told that. As a BIM coordinator, I'm the internal advisor regarding BIM and ICT. I have many people coming to me, project leaders. Many of them are very skilled project leaders. They don't know that much about ICT, or actually just IT, just like a project tender web. How are you going to use it? Okay, it's good. Many people actually know how to upload and download a file. And I actually talked to our delivery and supplier of Project Web and said, okay, do you have any manuals for using your system? Yeah, of course we have. We have this and this manual. One for administrators and one for users. And I looked it through and said, okay, it says how to upload and download a file. I want to know how to use it. If you have a lump sum turnkey, so Totalanspace in Denmark, then you have one actor, he will run it all. If you have Total all of you, then you have more processes to think about. You have one advisor who has to make sure that all the stuff is on the project web. At the same time, you have the tender, and you put all the tender, both the our material and all the offers, you have to put that on the project web for 5 or 6 contractors. So the contractor who wins and gets access to the project web, technically he will be able to see the 5 other contractors' offers. He's not allowed to do that. So how are we going to make sure that he doesn't do that? We're going to close that folder for him. We're going to simply close it. And it sounds very easy. But who's going to add the contract? And who's going to add his advisors and his suppliers? And how many rights should they have on the project web? It's many of these processes that still need to be figured out. Not how to upload and download file. Most people can do that. It's the process within using the systems. Also reverberation. I made a Pixie book for project leaders and procurement legals. They can look up stuff. Maybe if people forget what is IFC, what is CAD, what is BIM, they can look it up and see. It's a little shortage for them. I also have introduction course and training of these project leaders. There's many different ways to do this. You have the big e-learning, which many companies are using. YouTube videos, send it out for the whole organization. They have 3 minutes to watch a YouTube video. Is that good? Well, it's fast, it's easy. Many people would like it because it only takes 3 minutes. How much do they learn? I don't know. If you have it in front of you, you can see in their eyes, did you understand what a tender web is? And you're going to see in the project leader's eyes, whether he's thinking of his project or actually knows how to use the system. So it's very difficult because can I train? We have 200 people in the organization. No, I cannot. I don't have that much time when I also have to do other stuff. So the balance between how much knowledge should they know, how are we actually developing the organization? Yeah. And BIM in our department. We have a lot of students who are digitalizing our current building assets. The ICT agreement is for new projects, for renovation and stuff like that. But we have buildings in 2D. We need to put those up to 3D. And we have super excellent students doing that. They register the building, they look at all the drawings, and they build in 3D. They do it for about half to 1.5 krona per square meters. We had advisors coming to me and saying, you know what? We can digitize your whole 2.9 millions. And I said, oh wow, this looks nice. Yeah, we're going to send it to Bangladesh. They're going to do it so cheap. And I said, really? Nice. So how much? Well, you know, around 4 to 6 krona per square meter. And I said, well, no thanks. I'm doing it for 1 krona per square meters. So maybe I should start a business. Then, of course, the advisor said, yeah, but you'll get it on level 4. You know levels? The informationsniveau at BIPs. So level 4, that's, you know, you have the wall and you can see all the layers in it. And he said, oh, you're going to get that. And I said, you're going to tear down our existing buildings and look upon what's inside the walls? Well, no, he's not going to do that. He's just going to look at the old drawings and see what the wall's made of and assume some stuff. So I said to him, okay, but our students are doing on level 2. That's the geometrical stuff. How much more information can you put on without looking at old papers? We can always also look at old papers. Well, yeah, true. So that's where the difference is. We want level 4 for my advisors when we're building new, because when they are building the project, they know what's in it. That's why we can demand a higher level. Also, the advisors have a large education, many years of experience, and get 1200 kroner per hour. Our student doesn't get like 10% of that. So they're doing it on level 2, and our revenue models is building blocks. So we get a level 2. And then the construction, then our building department comes and say, you know what? We have to make fire plans on that. We're going to make an advisor to make fire plans on this building. And we say, okay, we have the Revit model. Can he do it in that? Oh yeah, sure, he can do it in that. He will do it in that. And then we have a Revit model on level 2, but with fire plans. And that's how our models is being more and more filled with informations. So we have a minimum level and we put on informations. So when product leaders come to me and say, well, how much information do we have on this building? I say, it's very hard to point out at the moment. First of all, only 15 or 20% of our building assets is actually in Revit. That's the first point. And also our assets in Revit. How large scale is that? Well, the ones we're getting from our devices is more, rich of information than the one we're doing. But we have a minimum standards. And then you can put in FM info, tenants info, fire plans, etc. And then we put in plan drawings put into a space management system as we have at the moment. We don't have an FM system can do the 3D as Lars showed. I already pointed out the organization, fill up the bosses, cost money, they have to find it, stuff like that. If I had the money, I would do it tomorrow. We don't. We have to think about what to do. However, again, we only have 15% in Revit, so we are still much dependent on 2D. And all the planning drawings becomes available for our tenants. They can see which rooms they are renting, how much they are renting for in square meters and in money, and they can, if they change a wall, they can tell us. We will change the Revit models. And why are we doing this? We're doing this to get a better overview of the building asset. We want all the information. Many of them we already have in the basement. We have 500,000 paper drawings in the basement. How long time is it going to take to go all through all that to find out what's actually important and what to keep and what to throw out? So we want it to be a better overview, save money in the process of finding information. Data collected in one place. Simply that's the reason. Right now we have drawings all over. We have project leaders keeping in their drawers. We have in the basement. We have between the chairs, everything. It's not even digitalized. You want it digitalized and you want to collect in one place, so you have one place to go in and find the information. And of course all the data is available for our clients, because who's going to maintain all this data? We are not going to maintain all that data. If they change the carpet to a wooden floor, they are going to tell us and we'll change it in the model. But there's still those people who know about the data. Tender web and project web is just saving us money. Printing, exchanging data with all people. Many of you probably have a Dropbox account. That's just the way. Okay, Dropbox is mostly not so good at working, in a normal project because you don't have all the rules, the setup and stuff like that. But working in a just team or group, as probably many of you are doing, it's perfect. That's the way to do it. BIM support and optimize the current processes. We're not changing our processes because of BIM. We have lean construction. We have project leaders working in the right way, optimized. And if something is not optimized, they will find it out themselves. We're not going in and saying, you know what, you're not going to do it like that because BIM and Revit demands this and this. That's not the way we're going to do it. We say we have the process, this is how we're working. And how can the ICT and how can the BIM support our processes? And then maybe we can do it even smarter with BIM. But we do not make sure that Revit demands it. It goes the other way around. Okay, future for ICT and BIM. BIM is the way to do things, not the goal. We're not doing this just to get a model. We're doing it because we want the model, because we want to make sure that we can save money in the operating phase. That's what we want. So when we get the models, nice, very nice. You can save some money on collision control, etc. during the project construction, but it's the end, it's in the operation phase we want to save the money. You're talking about 3D, 4D, 5D, 6D, ND. How many dimensions does a model have? It has 3 dimensions. You can put in a lot of information. You put in price, time, energy, daylight, FM, cleaning service, fire plans, cleaning services. We are public client. We have to get cleaning companies in. They make offers every 4th year. We have to go out and say we need somebody to clean our buildings, and they're going to ask us what surface is it. Is it wood? Is it carbon? Is it for making sure that they actually have a good environment to live in, and we can operate the buildings for a very nice and easy way. At the same time, I take a little quote from Charles Dickens. Back in the 16th century, he was writing a book about two cities, saying it was the best of time, it was the worst of time. And I use this many times because right now we're in the development phase. We're using BIM. You have in the construction industry using CAD. So BIM is like, ooh, no, we don't want to do that. We want to do it the old-fashioned way. You're going to look upon that in Danish construction so many times. Old-fashioned way, people love that. Innovation, new stuff, people hate it. So it's a steep hill you have to go up. But in 30 or 40 years, I will bet my ass that when you get on that hill and comes on the valley and saves the money, you're going to look back and say, wow, it was a good thing we did it. One time, an advisor actually told me, oh, if you want 3D, more digitalized, that's going to cost you money. Then I told him, you know what? You don't have to do it in 2D. Just hand draw it. Then you're going to pay me money for doing less digitalism. And then he said, well, no, I don't want to do that. So back when the old times, when you changed from drawings in hand going to CAD, you also had to buy computers. You also had to get the people who knew how to use these. So it's the same. You had to buy Revit license, MicroStation license. You had to get people to know how to do it, also do the processes. So it's a big implementing, and that costs money. But in the end, we will look back and say it was the right decision to do. That's why we're doing it. Questions?